Hi, here I'm presenting my general sort of program of health that was largely inspired by a particular doctor called Lawrence Wilson, who has, in fact, his whole big website, which presents lots of really unorthodox concepts, many of which are actually very interesting and really brilliant, and on the other hand, many of which are just completely crazy and just wrong. But still, by and large, his diet is really like the best approach to diet that I've ever seen. And I'm saying this from my own empirical perspective. And by that, I mean that his own perspective just seems the most in tune with what I've actually experienced. And so the story here is that, for a long time I've been very tired and just tended to be also very cold and tended to be quite, just feel weak and, tended to get sick relatively easily. And one thing I realized that all these symptoms I had seemed to correspond with this idea in Chinese medicine of yin, the yin as opposed to yang. So yin is femininity, and it's also like cold and dampness. And I realized that this kind of corresponded to what I was experiencing. And so I did an internet search for something like, yin health diet, something like that. And the search results came up with Lawrence Wilson's website. And very quickly I realized that lots of what he was saying really corresponded with my own experience. For instance, I had already been avoiding lots of sweet foods, and Lawrence Wilson really made it clear that eating sweet foods was in fact unhealthy because it was yin. And because his whole dietary advice seemed to correspond so well to what I was experiencing, well, I also decided to try out the other advice he was giving, especially the nutritional supplements, and also these other funny procedures that we'll have a look at a bit further on. So let's have a look at his website. Here we go, Dr. Lawrence Wilson, drlwilson.com. Welcome to the Development, Science, and Nutritional Balancing website. Development, as we use the word, is the expansion of the human energy field. It is a life path that results in deep healing of the body and mind. Development is programmed into our DNA. However, it rarely occurs due to malnutrition, lifestyle imbalances, and excessive toxic metals in the body. This website offers programs to promote rapid development. Nutritional balancing is a term formerly used to describe the healing work. It is not as accurate as the word development because this healing method goes well beyond nutrition. We also teach biblical values which are needed to establish and maintain any free society. We're a nutritional, developmental, medicinal, and veterinary research foundation. So there's been a bit of changes since the last time I went to see it, and so it's pretty long. So I'm not gonna show you. Should really, if you're interested in this, read the whole thing. I'm gonna basically provide just a quick summary. So basically, what he does is largely, so he's really into hair analysis. So he looks at your hair and he has it analyzed, and basically somehow the machine picks up the levels of the minerals that you have. Then that kind of determines the sort of state of your metabolism overall. So you read the articles because it's pretty, there's a lot of stuff, and in any case I don't really remember all of it. I'm not, that's well beyond the scope of my video here to present it, since anyway he presents everything there is to present. So there's not really any use for me to do it on top of what he's done. My purpose is rather to evaluate what Lawrence Wilson has done and to say what I agree with and what I disagree with. That's what the use of this video here is. So let's just have a look here. Okay, so here's a summary of the diet. 6 rules for rapid development. Eat lots of well-cooked vegetables with breakfast, lunch, and supper. Eat 3 meals a day. Do not eat just grains and meats or mainly chemicalized foods such as fast food or raw vegetables, salads. Adults need 2 to 3 cups of well-cooked vegetables with each meal. It is best if they are fresh and not canned or frozen. Interestingly, canned vegetables are testing better than frozen ones. I agree with eating lots of well-cooked vegetables because I've done that and overall it seems well. However, 2 to 3 cups is absolutely crazy. 2 to 3 cups per meal. A cup is something like it's over 400 grams, right? So you'll be eating 1.3 kilos or something. You'll be eating, a cup is about a pound, right? So it's basically 2 to 3 pounds of well-cooked vegetables with each meal. This is not possible. Even per day, this would be too much. Okay, so this is already perhaps my first criticism. you should just eat, a healthy serving of cooked vegetables, like he says, but not that huge an amount. But otherwise, I agree with this. Avoid frozen food as much as possible, except for meats, which seem to be okay if you cannot get fresh meat. I don't know about that. I've been eating frozen food. It feels fine to me, but again, it may not actually be as healthy, or I don't know. My impression is that other people were saying that frozen food is okay, but like he says that it's not. I can't evaluate that. For me, frozen seemed okay. Then organically grown and locally grown are usually superior as well. I agree. I mean, organic is healthier and better for the environment, and locally it sort of depends, because like it actually might be better for the environment to have it grown in a certain way and then shipped, and have something that's locally grown but grown in a way that's actually environmentally unfriendly. So don't just always go for local just because it's local. Vegetables need to be pressure cooked for no more than 3 minutes, or steamed, boiled, or slow cooked for no more than about 45 minutes. Basically, it depends on the vegetable. Like some of these really greener vegetables, I'll cook them for more like broccoli, I'll just do it for 1 minute after you reach the high pressure mark. But other vegetables need more, around 5. So yeah, it really depends on the vegetable, and you'll just see it, okay? You just see it until it's, you just cook it until it's well cooked, but not like overcooked. Then do not fry, boil, roast, or bake vegetables. Kind of agree, because all these other techniques are going to cook the vegetables hotter, and as a result, it's not going to be as healthy. And yeah, also preferably do not stir fry or saute vegetables. These produce toxic chemicals. Overall, I agree. If you're going to cook in a pan, you cook it at low heat, and even then, it's not probably as healthy. Like the best way is really pressure cooking. Pressure cooking is a lot faster than boiling, and also, boiling tends to lose some nutrients, because they leach out into the water. So pressure cooking is really the best, and that's what I've been doing, and I agree that pressure cooking is the best. And so all this, I would say, even without Lawrence Wilson, I definitely would agree with all this, except for the quantity. 2 to 3 cups is too much. And then 2, eat only whole natural foods, preferably organically grown and non-GMO, no genetically modified foods. This means no protein powders, no green drinks, smoothies, or shakes, no juices except 10 to 12 ounces of carrot or wheatgrass juice away from meals, no egg whites only, no egg beaters, and no food bars. See the references at the end? Yeah, okay. Yeah, just basically eat only whole natural foods. Yep. 3, eat animal quality protein twice every day and eat protein 3 times daily. For rapid development, do not eat a vegetarian diet. I actually agree. It's like ethically okay. It's better just ignoring the health aspect. It's better to eat a vegetarian diet, of course, because you're not going to be like harming any other conscious beings. But for your health, it's actually not the best as far as I can tell. So I agree with this. So animal protein includes red meat such as lamb, goat, organic, grass-fed beef, dark meat, chicken, sardines, eggs, and a little goat yogurt. Yep. However, limit the portion size for adults to 4 to 5 ounces, or 110 to 140 grams of protein per serving, and no more. Yep. Agree. Eat warming foods only. All food tends to either warm the body or cool it down. So, and yeah, it's his sort of macrobiotic concept of yin and yang. These are physics qualities. It's not really physics. It's a sort of weird, sort of spiritual physics thing. I don't understand it, but it actually seems to work. This is just empirically based on my own experience. It's not just a sort of physical warming or cooling. Here it says, warming means faster motion of the atoms and molecules. It is also more compact with more inward downward movement of subtle energy. So again, this is not actual physical stuff. This is sort of more like paraphysical. Some teachings use other equivalent words such as yang and yin in Chinese medicine and macrobiotics. Warming foods includes meats, eggs, cooked vegetables, and whole grains. Other foods such as fruit, raw vegetables, most juices, and all food powders, all sweets of all kinds tend to cool the body, and this slows development. First reason, do not eat sugar, honey, maple syrup, agave nectar, coconut products such as coconut water, coconut cream, or coconut milk, soda pop, fruit juice, or much fruit or milk. Also, do not eat sweetened foods such as cookies, cakes, ice cream, pastries, all desserts, and many breads. Yep. Agree with all this. That food that he says don't eat is crap, and it's crap not only for like the mainstream science kind of reason, but really because of this sort of yin cooling effect that he talks about. I absolutely agree with this. This is just from my own personal empirical experience. Not drink any liquids with meals. Have drinking water before your meal, then wait 5 minutes or longer before you eat your meal. It also means take your supplements before your meal if you need to have some water. Swallow them, then wait 5 minutes after, and then eat your meal. However, it is okay to take supplements during or right after a meal. Do not have smoothies, shakes, protein drinks, superfood. So the not drinking, I kind of agree. For me, it's just because it kind of makes you full, and it's true. You're probably not going to digest quite as well. Again, I think it depends what you're eating, because if you're eating like some sort of dry starch, like of course if it's bread, but then he says don't eat bread, but like some breads, especially if it's more like with whole grains and stuff, it's probably okay. And that is pretty dry, so like drinking water with that would actually make sense. So it depends how liquid what you're eating is already, really. But overall, I agree. Don't water your food down with too much liquid. Then do not have smoothies, shakes, protein drinks, superfood drinks, frappes, or any other drinks that combine water or other liquids with food. This is much harder on digestion than tu yin. If you have carrot juice, have it alone. Then wait at least half an hour before eating a meal. Yeah, like why not? But basically, he says just don't drink anything other than water, and I agree with that. Then 6. Use sea salt with all meals. Preferable brands are Hein and Hawaiian bamboo jade. Use sea salt to taste, including on meals. It is an important product for development. Sea salt in moderation does not raise blood pressure or cause other problems. Avoid standard table salt, which is a processed and toxic product. Also avoid salt substitutes such as potassium chloride. Yeah, I agree. Sea salt, it's not just sodium chloride. It has a bunch, it's a mix of different minerals, in fact, with mostly sodium chloride, but also others. I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. So, yep. And so then, there's a lot more. What is development, blah, blah. So fast and slow oxidizer diet. So then he goes into much more detail about everything. So it's not my purpose here to, show everything, because it's too long to cover everything. I could make another video maybe to, like, in the future to cover all of this. Overall, I mostly agree with his diet. But what I want to show instead is the fact that he is maybe where he goes wrong. So already he has all his sort of value stuff. So he has all this sort of crazy, North American conservative beliefs. And look, he's got a shitload of articles on this. And it's like mostly not like good, but like it's mostly just completely crazy conspiracy theories type stuff. So basically don't look at this, because you can look at it, but don't buy into it, right? Because this is just like complete crazy stuff, mental like brainwashing and curses and how to break them. So that's the funny thing. He's got this sort of crazy conservative thing, and he's also got this crazy new age thing, entity attachment and release. Mass media, the more trustworthy mental telepathy. He's probably going to say he's going to say Fox News. Let's see, he's going to say Fox News. And see, look, propaganda, what today's media really do. Intentionally omit reporting some stories, intentionally lie, intentionally mix up facts. Why does this occur? It occurs because most media outlets in the world are owned or controlled by socialists, leftists, liberals, and or progressives. That this is not at all the same thing, right? And that like liberals are the opposite of socialists. But anyway, these people use the media for propaganda purposes, namely to promote their agenda of world socialism. The rogues are behind all this. And so the rogues is like some completely like crazy conspiracy theory. The socialists habitually lie because if they told the truth, no one would support them. They favor elitism, a rule of an elite over the mass of the people. See, this is nuts. They think socialism is elitism. Somehow, this North American conservatives have gone so crazy that they think socialism is elitism. Now, of course, in practice, socialist governments were elitism, so they aren't like utterly wrong about that. But like, how is their like own like right-wing ideology not elitist? It's ultra elitist. Like Trump is like an ultra elitist, So he's like totally peddling all these stupid conspiracy theories. And there's this idea of like world socialism, and that, it's not world socialism, but I do advocate for a world government, right? And like nobody else is doing it. Like for now, it's just a conspiracy theory, and like literally nobody's doing it because all these supposedly globalist liberals actually don't want world socialism, right? They actually like having separate countries, and they like having separate countries because it pits people against each other, and therefore it allows them to rule those people more effectively through the principle of divide and rule. So again, this like Lawrence Wilson in this political aspect, he's completely nuts. Okay, like all these Republican people, he's completely nuts. But his food advice is very good. He's like really brilliant with the food stuff. With the rest, he's completely nuts. The 700 Club is a 1-hour daily news show found on several Christian TV stations every day. Oh boy, this is gonna be one heck of a weird thing, I bet. Fox cable channel is better but not great. It is better than NBC, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, NPR, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and other. Glenbeck TV is quite good. Oh man, radio. There are many decent, thoughtful talk show hosts such as Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ling, all these people, Sean Hannity, Ben Shapiro, all these. This is like terrible. Okay, Dennis Prager, Jesus Christ. Dennis Prager has been the best of all the talk show hosts in questioning the Chinese virus measures, which he correctly calls the police state. Ordering people to stay at home in direct violation of the U.S. Constitution is going right back to the Nazis and other tyrants. He calls it a mistake, but it's not a mistake. It was carefully planned. He's he's completely crazy. He's just completely bought in. But the crazy thing is that this is now mainstream. Like, half of the U.S. population believes in this crazy shit, okay? This is how fucking crazy the United States has become, okay? Like, it's not even, like, weird or anything. This complete fringe craziness is, like, literally the sort of classic U.S. sort of mentality for, like, half of the U.S. This is, like, terrible. I mean, if there's just one person like this, it would be fine. But, like, oh my god. And he's got all this shit. See, minimum wage laws, pure communist evil. Just doesn't understand anything. Public policy, guns and violence. So he's gonna be like, he's gonna say like you have to not be violent, but you have to have like let people have guns because that's like helps fight violence or something. You know, he's like free market environmentalism, the regulatory state. Like you can read this if you just want to sort of get a good idea of what a crazy typical Republican sounds like. This is what it looks like. Okay, but you should absolutely follow his diet. His diet is more correct than anything else I've ever found, which is bizarre, but it's nonetheless true. And and I'm a doctor, but like this, yep, he is right about this. See, entity attachment and release. Soul attachment release is a topic that is not discussed much, yet it is real. It is included on this website because it definitely affects some people's health and well-being. Discarnate souls can attach to a person for the following reason: confused entities after death due to a quick accident or fast-moving illness. 2. Nasty entities. These are discarnate souls that cause problems for people for various reasons. Often the discarnate soul was abused while its body lived and is angry, upset, resentful, and wants to cause damage to others. Females. These are very special nasty entities that are here to defend children, interestingly, and they influence women to have children. Unfortunately, they do it by making women more sensual, more sexy, and more provocative and dirty, one might say. Supportive or crutch entities. These are discarnate souls that move in when a person's body or mind are weak. A crutch entity fills a hole, so to speak, and in some way supports the body. Meatless-related entities. This will sound odd, but eating meat blocks the entrance or attachment of some types of entities. One may call these vegetarian entities. So, and then he keeps talking about it, so you sort of get the idea. I'm not saying for sure that these things don't exist. I'm just saying that, like, how on earth do you know that this actually exists? And, well, again, within a few posts, I'm going to be seeing the take of another person who seems a lot more rational with this kind of stuff on the whole issue of entities, and you're sort of going to see what he has to say about it. And basically, that's going to be my stance on this whole entity issues. And so basically, I think Lawrence Wilson's idea of entities is not completely wrong. There's probably some weird stuff going on, but overall, this kind of bestiary of different entities is most likely nonsense, right? So you get the idea, right? And so then there's the whole development program. And so here you get to see the development program. So that is just like the entire sort of basic list of things that you're supposed to do. So here he says the diet is the most important part of the program. So there's the diet, which we already saw. And then basically forbidden food is sort of like, junk food and like lots of sweet stuff, mostly fruit, mostly dairy. Actually, let's just see forbidden food. So one of the things he says is avoid all the nightshade vegetables, potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, and all peppers, both sweet peppers and all hot peppers. These vegetables are all either too yin or a little toxic. Yeah, and I kind of agree. So I've actually been avoiding them for that reason. And sprouts. And he says, avoid all sprouts. The reason is that sprouts contain a toxin to keep animals from eating the young plants. So I wasn't eating sprouts anyway. And he says, Brussels sprouts are not sprouts. They're fully grown vegetables. So, okay. But so I agree with that. Then avoid all larger fish and all shellfish, and he says because it's contaminated. The reason is that most fish contain too much mercury, even salmon. Shellfish are caught near shore and are contaminated with mercury and other toxic metals such as cadmium. So I largely agree with this, but like there've been studies indicating that like Alaskan salmon, for instance, really doesn't have any toxic metals. So I've been eating that quite a lot. So I think that should be okay. But yeah, like tuna is known to have lots of toxic metals, and shellfish, well, in most situations, is probably gonna have some. So avoid all hard cooked eggs because he says like it's sort of toxic. Avoid all pig products because he says they contain parasite eggs even if they're well cooked. Pig products also slow development. So I've kind of been avoiding pig products just because they're often sort of treated less well and because they like seem more intelligent. So I sort of try to avoid eating them. On the other hand, I like the taste of pork. I haven't noticed and personally like any like ill effect of pork. And the parasite eggs, well, it's more of a problem like when you're preparing them and you touch the raw meat. Normally, like if it gets cooked, these parasite eggs just get killed. Avoid bison and buffalo. Avoid organ meats. So I wasn't really eating any of those. Avoid refined soy products, and that sort of lots of people agree with that. I'll sort of agree. Avoid protein powders. Avoid eating nuts and seeds. Yeah, I kind of agree that it's like I sort of don't eat them that much, and it's not all that great. I wouldn't say they're all that bad either, but like don't eat too many nuts. Then from my impression, it's like not the best. Avoid lentils at this time. Unfortunately, there's a problem with lentils. Our client do not feel well eating them right now. We hope this will be resolved soon. I've been eating lentils and I've had no problem with it. So for me, lentils are fine. But again, to each their own. Then grain foods to avoid. Avoid all wheat and spelt products. Wheat has been altered and has become very irritating food, too high in glutamic acid. Avoid buckwheat, it's slightly toxic. Avoid all raw grain products such as granola, muesli, and trail mix. Avoid rice cakes. They are a refined and nutritionally depleted product. Avoid rice at this time. We hope the situation will improve, but for now there's a problem with rice, especially in America and Europe. But like I don't know what he means by that. I actually stopped eating wheat and for quite a while, and then when I started again, every time I felt really weird. So I obviously did have a sort of reaction to probably gluten, because I don't have it like with other grains. But I don't know to what extent that sort of gluten intolerance actually developed from my stopping eating gluten. And now I've been eating gluten again, and it's been okay. So I'm not really too sure what to think about this gluten thing. You could try, but it's possible they might, I don't know, maybe you might even develop intolerance when you stop eating foods, because that is a thing that does in fact happen. Otherwise, by and large, I would say it's okay to just eat grains. Like I think some people have like specific issues with grains and they should specifically avoid them. But again, this is sort of a diet that's meant to apply to just everyone, to sort of everyday random person. And I think for the everyday random person, eating grains is fine. Then avoid all fruit. So, yep. Basically, fruit is too yin, too sugary, and does not contain the correct balance of nutrients for development. Yep, too yin, too sugary. I agree. I very much avoid fruit and was already sort of instinctively avoiding it well before, I discovered this. Fats and oils to avoid. Avoid all hydrogenated oils. Well, pretty much everyone agrees with this. Avoid lard and all products made with it. That's because he's anti-pork. Dairy products to avoid. So he doesn't like cooked milk products like pasteurized milk and cooked cheese. He says basically don't eat too much dairy. For me, I find dairy is like really yin, just like fruit. So I also just avoid dairy. All dairy except for butter, actually. Beverages, so just like don't eat anything but water. Avoid mushrooms because they're quite yin and not that nutritious. For me, I found mushrooms to be okay. But okay, like he says that, whatever. Avoid chocolate, somewhat toxic. I agree with that. I feel weird when I eat chocolate. So we've covered that, and let's see. We go back. Foods for occasional use. One interesting thing here that I quite like is spices. A little spice is okay to add to food, but do not add a lot of condiments and spices to your food. They are too yin, and many are irritating or otherwise slightly toxic. I agree with that. That's my just personal experience, and so that was a thing I actually hadn't thought of before, and that I adopted since discovering Lawrence Wilson. Okay, so we've covered the foods. So this was the part of the whole development program. So the biggest part of the development program is the foods. Then you've got lifestyle. So 1, reduce stress wherever you can by living simply. More rest is critical for most people. So he says to try to sleep more. The thing is that lots of us, well, we just can't sleep more. We'd like to sleep more, we can't. So what I recommend instead is if you don't sleep, if you're just a small sleeper, well, just stay in bed anyway, okay? Because that is what's still the most restful thing you can do if you're awake. Gentle exercise only. Yep, I totally agree. Gentle exercise only is best with a development program because it will help conserve most of your energy for healing. Yes, limit your exercise to gentle walking, hiking, bicycling, or perhaps swimming in lakes, oceans, or rivers, but not pools, due to toxic chemicals and infections. And even that is a lot. Like, even, like gentle. Really do it gently, and lots of people shouldn't even do that. Like I'm saying, like some people would benefit from just not doing anything. Although some health authorities will disagree, it is not necessary to exercise vigorously. Yep, I agree. Even Kenneth Cooper, the founder of aerobics, discovered this after a number of people dropped dead of heart attacks during vigorous exercise routines. Yep. Most people are 1, exhausted, and 2, unhealthy. As a result, vigorous exercise may feel good, but it stresses the body severely and is not a good idea. And I've definitely experienced this personally. When I, did some working out, some cardio, I felt much more tired. I just felt much worse. And whenever, even like when I went on vacation, I'd go skiing or I'd go swimming every day, I felt worse. I slept worse. I felt more tired. I felt like shit. And this is why, because it's actually not good for you. So this I all agree with. So I agree with the diet mostly. I agree with the lifestyle here mostly. But then like here, deep breathing. Do deep breathing every day for at least 15 to 30 minutes. I'm not really sure if I agree with that, because that's actually it's actually tiring also. And what it does is they'll typically make you hyperventilate, which will give you like hypocapnia, and that is not healthy. I mean, it sort of is also sort of weirding and kind of yin, and like he says, so don't really agree with the deep breathing, but maybe a little bit. Why not? But maybe just like a few deep breaths, like twice a day or something. Not 15 to 30 minutes. 5, try to minimize sexual fluid loss. Yep, absolutely. For some reason, like mainstream medicine say, oh, it's all fine, you can just do as much as you want. No, it's terrible, and you should not do it. You should this means to limit regular sex to no more than once a week, unless if you're tired or debilitated. Absolutely, just do it as little as possible. But the problem is that sometimes if you just try too hard to stop, and I know this very well, is that you just sort of go nuts, and you say kind of like it's not. You do build up energy, but not in a healthy way. So just do as little as possible without sort of going nuts. 6, sunshine. Sun exposure to 10 to 20 minutes daily is very good. Do not stay in the sun for hours. This is toxic even if you wear sunscreen. Most sunscreens are toxic, so please do not use them. I largely agree with all of the sunshine thing, but I think for some people, if you're already very wound up as a person like I've been, sunshine actually winds you up more, so it gives you lots of energy, but again, the sort of like unhealthy energy accumulation, and in fact it can make you worse. So if you have a tendency to already be like very wired and high strung, but even if you're also tired as a result of that, like you shouldn't actually expose yourself to sunshine, and you shouldn't also like take these stimulating pills that he recommends to take, which we'll see in a sec. 7, reduce toxic exposures. So reduce all chemicals on your skin, such as perfumes, cologne, lotions, etc. I agree. Also beware of long chemicals, pesticides, solvents, paints, and other toxins. Agree. Use only natural products with as few chemicals in them as possible. I agree. 8, root canal filled teeth. Root canal filled teeth almost always harbor serious infection, even if you cannot feel it. Most often it's best to have the tooth removed. This can be extremely important in order to regain and maintain your health. It is essential if you have cancer. I get the impression there's been like lots of evidence that in any case dental health is highly correlated with overall body health, so I can definitely believe that, even though I don't have any personal experience. I don't really know much about it, but I'm willing to believe it. Silver amalgam dental fillings, so same thing, so have them replaced. Again, sort of I agree. Minimize electromagnetic pollution. Use a wired land telephone rather than a cell phone. If you must use a cell or portable phone, hold it away from your head or use a headset or speakerphone. Turn off all electrical devices when you sleep and keep them as far away as possible from you at all times. I agree. 11, minimize and preferably avoid using all medical drugs and most over-the-counter drugs. Most are toxic, and I agree, and I'm a doctor. Of course, that doesn't mean that you should just stop all your medication, okay? You have to, check and see if it's really okay to do it, right? You gotta check to see if you can actually go off your drug, right? Don't just like stop all your drugs, right? But you try. If you can be off the drug, be off the drug. And then nutritional supplements. And this is where we suddenly like disagree. So because I saw that like his diet and like lifestyle things were like so good, I figured like is probably his entire advice, would be good. Like sure, I knew that he had all his crazy, new age and Republican stuff, but at the same time, I figured that, this nutritional supplements were in the diet category, and as such, I thought it was actually a good idea. And I think for some people it might actually be a good idea. But the thing is that there have been lots of studies indicating that pretty much any supplement that you take, well, there's actually higher levels of mortality associated with taking the supplements than with not taking them. Like people who take supplements do apparently tend to have higher mortality. And so what I've noticed is that these supplements make me wound up, so they do give me more energy, but in a sort of unhealthy winding up way. So not all of them. So first, like there's TMG, so that is trimethylglycine, that does not wind me up. Then he also recommends calcium, that does not wind me up. So that's kind of stuff that calms me down. But even then, it's like a lot, and I don't really think it's all that necessary. But here, see, multivitamin. Multivitamins are super stimulating, and that got me super wound up and made me feeling much worse, and actually was terrible for my health. It just got me. I took this stuff for like 6 months, and I really, really regret doing it because they got me just totally wound up, and I never really fully got wound down from it. Like I got just totally on edge, and I was already sort of a bit like that, and I just got much more like that. And so really, if you have that kind of tendency, don't take these multivitamins. I mean, try them maybe for a week, see how you feel, and if you feel a strong improvement from taking them, then keep taking them, but otherwise, really just avoid taking any supplements. Kelp. Like, these are huge amounts they want you to take, because kelp is because it has iodine, and the quantity of iodine that he recommends you to take is something like 100 times the recommended nutritional daily value, so it's just absolutely huge, and I did it, and that is also part of what made me so wound up. Omega-3, that on the other hand, so he says you can do it with the fish oil, and you can also otherwise have capsules, so that is something you can do, and that is not a problem. Vitamin D, again, that's not too stimulatory, so you could do that. What you should avoid is especially the vitamin B, but and in general other vitamins as well. And even the supplements I've said are okay, like by and large you don't need them, okay? Like the thing you might need the most is maybe like vitamin D if you're like in places where there's not much sun, and omega-3. And beyond that you don't really need the rest. Then a powerful digestive aid, it ideally contain ox bile and pancreatin. Well, the thing is that taking this like on a regular basis has actually been associated with gastric cancer. So I don't necessarily agree with this either. In fact, I'm skeptical of this, and I took all of these because he said to take it, and I thought his diet advice was so good that I thought the supplements would be good, but no. So I basically reject his diet, and of course all the crazy New Age and Republican stuff. Then also here are these procedures, and so I sort of tried those a bit, and I basically also disagree with most of them. So the pulling down exercise for up to 2 hours daily. So this is just, you're basically supposed to visualize energy that's sort of being sucked down from your head down into your feet. And I tried that. I did not notice any sort of improvement. And in fact, there's another person that sort of deals with this sort of more esoteric stuff that actually has suggested that it's very harmful to do any of this kind of energy work. And his argument for it was pretty credible, so I'm going to cover that in another video. And basically, as a result, I recommend against doing any kind of like energy work whatsoever, whether it be with a therapist or just on your own doing visualization exercises. Don't do any of that kind of, spiritual energy stuff. Spinal twist, pops, pulls, so he recommends sort of doing these sort of funny like movements and stuff, like he says that they can work as well as some chiropractic. It's like sort of more gentle chiropractic, DIY chiropractic stuff. By and large, I disagree with it. I tried them, and I don't really think it's helpful. I don't agree with it. Foot and hand reflexology, so you push on these sort of pressure points. They're supposed to correspond to points of your body. Again, it's a bit weird. It's a bit like weirdly new agey. I tried it, didn't really notice much. I don't really think it's probably very useful. I don't really know if it works at all or not, but uh, I don't really think you should bother doing it, basically. Shining a reddish heat lamp on the abdomen for 1 hour, a daily use of red heat lamp sound oil for 20 to 30 minutes. Basically, I think it can definitely have a strong effect on people, but it will also tend to stimulate you, and if you have a tendency of being already too high strung, this is a bad idea. If you don't have that tendency, like if you're really just down and like depressed or like just like really tired, but without being in any way like you're not tired and wired, you're just tired and you're not high strung, then this could probably be actually quite helpful. 1 to 4 coffee enemas daily. I, in fact, did try it a little bit, not much, and it was not good because, again, it was coffee. The problem there was just that it was coffee, and as a result, well, it gave me caffeine, which made me more high-strung, and it made me nervous, and it was supposed to detoxify me, but it actually toxified me more because it just made me more nervous. So, again, if you have any sort of tendency to being high-strung, to being anxious, don't do this. Otherwise, maybe, but again, it's a bit suspicious because by and large he says avoid herbs, and coffee is also, and things like coffee, and basically coffee is like a kind of herb. And so basically, like, I recommend against the detoxification procedures and against the nutritional supplements. I recommend against, of course, buying into all the New Age and Republican stuff. But you should follow just the basic lifestyle advice and diet advice. And so essentially, Lawrence's lifestyle and diet advice is largely my lifestyle and diet advice. So now I've had an overview of Lawrence Wilson's program. So obviously I disagree with a lot of what he says. But on the other hand, his approach to diet and lifestyle is really very sound and just better than anything else I've ever come across. So to recapitulate, I mostly support his diet and lifestyle measures, and on the other hand, I oppose the supplements and the procedures, as well as the whole New Age and Republican stuff. And now I just want to give you a quick summary of what diet I recommend. Basically, the way I see it, you should, like he says, have about 3 meals a day, maybe 2, maybe 4, something like that, but you should have multiple meals a day and not a huge amount, and you should really eat at meals and not just continually. You should mostly eat foods from 3 categories, namely vegetables, which are meant to be cooked, meats, which are also obviously meant to be cooked, and starches, which are also obviously meant to be cooked. The vegetables should belong to largely 3 groups, which are root vegetables, cabbage family vegetables, and green vegetables. You should avoid the fruits called vegetables of the solanaceous family, like tomatoes and eggplants and peppers, which brings me also to the fact that you should avoid all spices, things that are actually hot, like hot peppers. And you should, of course, avoid potato. And so you should also mostly avoid raw vegetables, and especially fruit, and especially raw fruit. And your vegetables should be mostly pressure cooked. Then you should eat meats of all varieties. So you should eat both like mammal red meat, you should eat poultry, you should eat fish, and you should eat eggs. And these should be cooked, again, ideally mostly pressure cooked. Again, because pressure cooking is the most healthy method. Then starch-wise, so like I said, you should avoid potato. You should likely avoid wheat, but I'm not too sure about that. I've certainly had weird effects from eating wheat. But so you should just try that out for yourself. Otherwise, I think you can just go for it. So you can eat rice, you can eat corn, you can eat then, things like buckwheat. So Lawrence says it's toxic, but I thought it was okay. You can eat quinoa, you can eat lentils, you can eat peas and that kind of thing. So obviously, like, you've still got a pretty broad range of foods that you can eat. Then dairy you should avoid except for butter. And then, of course, you should avoid, junk food. You should mostly avoid nuts. Mushrooms, I don't have too much of an opinion about. Like he says, adding a bit of unrefined salt is good. And adding a variety of oils as well as butter to all your meals is a good addition as well. By and large, avoid condimentation, like just, a few herbs and stuff, that's good. But avoid excessively spicy stuff and all these like sauces and all that stuff. You should avoid that. So that is my dietary advice. Then, like Lawrence says, you should just rest as much as possible. And as I said in my previous video, I think that actually what many people need to do is just to actually lie in bed awake for many hours on top of, sleeping as much as they can. Basically, if you don't know what to do and you don't have anything else to do, just lie in bed. Avoid doing sports, avoid doing stressful activities, try not having a job if possible, and just really spend a lot of time in bed. Of course, don't spend your whole day in bed, right? Like, you should spend a few hours being just up and about and walking around in your house. And so what I imply by staying in bed is that basically, so you shouldn't engage in physical activities, and you shouldn't even engage in mental activities. So don't even, don't watch TV, don't read, don't do like video games or anything like that. Just do nothing. Let your body and your mind relax. That's basically what this staying in bed thing is about. So we've got the diet, we've got the activity aspect, and then there's a third major aspect of my whole program, which is socialization. I think it's very important to have healthy relationships. And so the first thing is that no relationships is better than unhealthy relationships, and then healthy relationships is better than no relationships. So I'm not going to cover exactly what constitutes a good or a bad relationship. There's plenty of material on that. I'll leave you to figure that out for yourself. But just be with people who largely are benevolent towards you and towards everyone, and with people who aren't excessively crazy, and who then act in ways that correspond with such a mindset. And this is really important because loneliness apparently takes off more than a decade of life expectancy, and I'm sure unhealthy relationships do too. So this is not just trivial. And so finally, Lawrence Wilson, he has this aspect of development. So all this stuff is really to help people reach what he calls development. And I, by and large, agree with this development idea. And so one thing that Lawrence Wilson doesn't talk about is enlightenment. And for me, basically, enlightenment is like the culmination of this development process. And so really what you want is to achieve enlightenment. And what that does is once you've achieved both this sort of physical development and that then it gives you enlightenment, which is like mental development, then you're able to live your life much more fully and enjoy it a lot more. And that's the fundamental purpose of this whole thing. So really, this is something that everyone should be doing. It's not just if you don't really feel so great right now. And it's something to do really assiduously and continually over years. This is not something that is going to happen overnight. But normally, if you do this well, you should at least become healthier, and even you should have a decent shot at achieving enlightenment. So that's it. That's my program for everyone to achieve genuine health and well-being. Bye.